Welcome, welcome. I see everyone's decided to leave as I've got them up on stage. Perhaps it's something I said, I don't know. Thank you for being here, everyone, and thank you for staying. Right, I'm Zaid. I look after brand relationships at VIOOH. If you don't know who we are, we support advertisers, agencies, and brands to leverage the power of digital out of home in their programmatic strategies. And that's what we're going to be focused on today. And this is why we're on the attention stage as well. So, we've got everyone here. So the headline for the discussion today is Tequila, Ad Tech and Takeoff. And the Tequila is absolutely relevant to this discussion, I promise. We've got a lot of surprises in store for everyone here today. Raise your hands if you like tequila. Fantastic, wow. I knew that was going to be a really good crowd pleaser. Now, if you raised your hands thinking you're getting it free tequila here today, I'm sorry to disappoint you. Okay, yeah. So we do, just for science, I wanted to get a sense check. Has anyone here ever responded to a digital out-of-home ad having taken some sort of action? You may have Googled something, you may have visited a store, you may have bought something. Brilliant. That's really good to see. It's good engagement. Again, there's a reason why out-of-home placement is a very high attention placement indeed. That's very good to know. And that is exactly the sort of behavior grounded in the themes that we want to explore with you here today. So, for those of you who've raised your hands, you're not alone. According to eMarketer, 76% of people have taken action having seen a digital out-of-home ad. And that's a huge surprise, right? That is huge. Meanwhile, 29%, nearly 30% of FMCG ad spend in the UK grew substantially in 2024. Increased nearly by 1.4 billion. And it just represents how quickly the market is moving. The FMCG space is incredibly fierce. It's very competitive, and retail CPG advertisers need to go above and beyond, think outside the box to try and engage the audience at every stage of the funnel. However, there are challenges for a lot of brands. The shelf space in stores is, it's very competitive to get your brand on the shelf. Shelf space is shrinking. Brands need to think about ways of just doing something very different to engage the audiences, not just in store, but offline, online. They really need to make it count. Their investment dollars really need to help drive and move products off the shelf, or the virtual shelf in that sense. This is shifting quite tremendously. What's interesting about out-of-home is that it is the last piece of the puzzle when you look at other channels in the programmatic chain, right? We've seen linear transition and make that move into programmatic just recently. Out-of-home is now making that same move. We've seen a fusion, a convergence, if you like, of traditional media coming into the digital space. And it's fantastic because it means we now have data and measurement that we can bring into the equation, and this is fantastic. So you now seamlessly have the ability with digital out of home as well, with the technology that we have, to reach your audience throughout their journey in the day, whether they're on their mobile phone, whether they're on their desktop at lunchtime catching up on a few episodes from, I don't know, Gold. That's what I've been watching. But the technology that we now have with digital out of home means that we can capture MAIDs, we can capture mobile device IDs, and use that to attribute where your audience may have seen your ad. For marketers and brand managers, this is fantastic because it means you can also add it into your MMM data to be able to attribute where you're getting the best engagements, right? So it's now much easier for you to be able to incorporate digital out of home into your entire funnel strategy for programmatic. Okay, so I'm not going to read through all of this, but why digital out of home? I've already touched on some of these elements here. Data and measurement is absolutely key, underpins everything that you do. Where we've seen a lot of success, particularly in the retail space, is using target-based, location-based targeting to help drive people into store, right? And having an ad outside of your local Sainsbury's, for example, if you're a coffee brand and you want to drive people, you'll be able to do the measurement off the back of it, and that is phenomenal. You help drive much better efficiencies and make smarter decisions of where to place your media investment. It's really good. Okay, so that was just a little warmer. I'm now going to welcome Ben Watt on stage, Head of Digital Media Global Travel at Diageo, to unpack a live example for a campaign that they ran using digital out of home.
Yep. Hello, everyone.
Sorry, let me just find my...
Get sorted.
Hello. Right. Welcome, Ben. Hi. I'm glad I'm still here.
Yeah, no.
I thought I'd been fainted by this time. Right, okay. So Ben, you have leveraged digital out of home in a recent campaign that you ran for one of your travel executions. Could you please just walk us through what it is that you ran?
Yeah, definitely. So we launched a campaign for Don Julio 1942 Tequila. It was based in Heathrow, and we wanted to do two things. One was to target tourists going to Ibiza in the summer, and the second thing was to leverage our partnership with Pasha nightclub. But overall objectives were, what we were trying to do. We were trying to build product and brand awareness of Don Julio 1942. Obviously leverage Pasha, but what was really critical was to create associations of Don Julio 1942 with moments of celebration, right? So you've got these tourists going to Ibiza. It's going to a luxury tequila, and they're going to a luxury party destination. So we want to be there on that journey and part of those moments of celebration. And we did that. One of the aspects we did was using programmatic digital out of home. We did this and we combined it with flight data. So within Heathrow Airport, we were targeting people flying to Ibiza. But also we had footfall sensors installed with our retail partners. So we were able to get some great data back in terms of, is this driving footfall? Is this actually working? And lastly, we were also able to have a bit of fun with DCO. We were able to play with various data triggers to use with our creative. So really what we were trying to do is get some good targeting in there, deliver some real good creative that would hopefully resonate, and ideally drive that footfall, drive that traffic, and drive that association with our brand.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. You mentioned sensors, footfall sensors, just for the layman in the
definitely.
room. Would you mind just explaining that?
Yep, so we worked with an agency called Store Boost, and it's literally, they're very innocuous, you hardly see them. They're footfall cameras. They were installed under the physical display near our products. It's not exact science, but it's great data points to get back is, if we're doing this activity, is there footfall coming near our products, right? And it's not exact science, but it's a great data point, and we really wanted to get that we wanted to get some kind of results when we did this activity.
And results is obviously important to try and get that next budget signed off.
Yeah, definitely.
From your CFO. Brilliant. I know from experience that Diageo has gone through quite a huge consolidation of SSP partners globally, right? By your programmatic team. But what specifically made you select programmatic digital out of home for this?
Yeah, I mean, for us, it was a great test and learn opportunity. So at Diageo, we're kind of consumer first, very data driven organization. Other parts of the business had experimented with this, but in the global travel where I work, where we target primarily airports, this is a great opportunity to first of all test programmatic digital out of home, but also do DCO. We're able to pull some really nice data triggers around weather. We're able to look at the temperature in Ibiza and show that in the out-of-home display. We're able to do location, like you're 50 feet away from the duty-free store, or you're 6 hours to your flight. So it was a real fun opportunity to use some of that data to bring it in. And then lastly, we were really interested in footfall sensors, right? When traditionally we spend, a considerable budget with out of home, does it work? And again, this is a great opportunity to educate internally, but to get some data points and bring it back to the wider business.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. Right. What surprised you most?
I think what surprised me most is that it fundamentally worked, right? It was a test and learn, but we got back significant data that showed, yes, we did affect footfall. We drove footfall. Because we drove footfall, we saw a great uplift in sales. And part of the wider activity, we were also testing our creative and looking at brand uplift. And we also saw results there. So we approached this from a test and learn perspective. I wasn't surprising to get. I wasn't expecting to get such solid data back, which we did. So that was a great surprise. And I think probably the second thing was how fast and easy it was to use programmatic digital out of home. I'm used to quite long lead times. This was almost like a last minute thing where we set it up. Kate Andrews, our Don Julio brand manager, got the creative. By the very nature of programmatic digital out of home, it's super easy to set up, book, and do. And then DCO, I was expecting us to have technical issues around it, but no, we were able to do a whole bunch of experiments, test different creative. So it was generally really fast and really easy, and that was probably the second biggest surprise for me.
Yeah, and people forget, out of home ads placements, it's the most native format in a real world setting, right? It'll be very bizarre, I can't imagine seeing a bus shelter, for instance, without an out of home placement, or even an airport. Yeah. They naturally fit seamlessly into the environment. Right, I've just been signaled, we've got about 5 minutes left, so we need to kick on here. So, you mentioned already that your main focus is airports.
Yeah.
Was this a standalone execution, or did you incorporate other channels in your planning as well?
Well, a part of this activity, all the media planning had been done, so there's a variety of activity kicking off. This opportunity arose kind of after literally all planning, so it's literally, we have this opportunity to test this in Heathrow. So for all intents and purposes, it was a standalone. We were already launched this other activity, but doing it in Heathrow, it was actually a great opportunity because it was isolated, and we were able to almost use it like an experiment, like a great test experiment. So ideally, we would have integrated within our full connections, media planning, but it benefited us because by doing standalone, we're able to get that data and use that. And we've continued. We've done this activity now with Casamigos, one of our premium tequila brands. So it was a great opportunity, and it was just jump at the moment, just be decisive, and we executed very, very quickly.
Brilliant. Thank you for that. Well, I'm going to ask the final two questions before we head off. From a brand perspective, what do you think is needed in the industry to make it easier for advertisers to tap into programmatic digital out of home?
Yeah, I think it's probably standardization and transparency of, essentially, measurement metrics. Yep. It's hard to compete for budget with performance marketing when you have so much data coming back, so much performance data. So I think that's really important. How do we establish this and communicate it? And I think probably second thing is an awareness, and I'm guilty of this myself. I knew it was there, but you know, I kind of forgot that we could do stuff like DCO. Sometimes there's so many like, you know, shiny objects out there, but we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of success with it. So it's definitely an awareness factor, I think.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. It's good to know. There's also one thing I didn't mention earlier is that, I mean, see it as a loophole if you like, but digital out of home is also exempt from HFSS rules, and you can go and look that up on the IAB website. I'm not making it up.
No comment.
Just a little surprise there as well, as I mentioned earlier. Okay, last question then. So what have you learned from this campaign, and what can you share with other marketers?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably you know, two things. I don't want to be cheesy. You know, it's hard to kind of give, you know, something. There's no silver bullet. I think there's probably, you know, two things. The first was, you know, people aren't 100% on their digital devices, right? So all our activity is very digital focused. It's hitting their mobile phones, their iPads, you know, the TV. But people are about walking, and within the airport, you know, they're not on their digital devices, and we have this medium that we can communicate and get really, you know, really great creative that drives that footfall. So I think it's definitely that awareness that, you know, traditional media is looked down upon, but this is not really traditional media, right? This was highly targeted digital programmatic. It's traditional media catching up in the digital age. I think, you know, so definitely remember that. And I think the second thing probably was really interesting is we had really great creative. So we tested beforehand and we did post-test, right? So we did this clever targeting. We used DCO, but we knew that creative resonated, right? And we wouldn't have got the results that we had without that creative. It obviously, you know, triggered something in these you know, tourists there. They went there, they bought the product. So I can't stress also how important that creative element is. And I mean, I know there's loads of agencies, like I'm looking over, you know, around here that do this type of creative testing, and don't underestimate it. It's one. There's no silver bullet.
Yeah.
There's multiple things you have to do, and that's a really critical one.
Test your creative before actually putting it
exactly
live. Yeah, brilliant. That's good. Content is king, as they say as well.
Yes, definitely.
Well, thank you very much, Ben, for your insights. Thank you very much, everyone. I don't think we've got time for questions, but please come find us after if you have any, and we'll be happy to chat. Thank you very
definitely.
much.
Thank you, everyone.
Big round of applause for Zaid and Ben there. Thank you very much, gents.